Hey there, welcome to the channel. FNAF is a franchise I didn't want to keep talking about, but here we are. Plus, I wanted to make a video discussing my opinion about Five Nights at Freddy's. However, this YouTuber has stayed on this series for years now. I also feel pretty bad as he was given such a hard time piecing together what he was given. I even acknowledge MatPat's theories the most because of recent encounters MatPat has gotten with the creator of FNAF, Scott Cawthon, and was close to solving it. Not many of us could solve it thoroughly, and Scott decided to continue the franchise in a new direction from his original story. He created new characters, a new narrative, and a much bigger conclusion, unless he never wants it to end. In my previous video, I thought about how FNAF was truly over with Ultimate Custom Night. Instead, FNAF Help Wanted happened, FNAF AR was released, and then FNAF Security Breach. My response was that the franchise jumped the shark, and now we have all these futuristic, demonic, and sci-fi horror genres brought into this underwhelming game on top of a confusing timeline. So why make a video about this if I've decided how ridiculous this is? I have some final thoughts, and I mean it since I want this series to be done, because all good things must come to an end. Now that's a phrase that will go unheard for the next few years. By the way, if you're always returning or if you're new here, consider subscribing so I can make more videos and it would really help support the channel. Alright, let's get started. In my previous video, I already liked MatPat's idea of the three eras. The eras were an excellent storytelling tool for different perspectives. It gives us a moment to examine the character's thought process, emotions, and what motivates them to move forward. I enjoyed the storytelling in a new way, and it's one where it's not just us trying to solve it. It unravels itself before us, giving a better understanding of what we never thought before. The two eras are my favorites since they felt like a fitting conclusion to a massive story that Scott had developed over the years. The change in atmosphere from an ambitious businessman who wreaks havoc to a son with the heart to right his wrongs and undoes his father's evil doing, even sacrificing his life for the greater good. I enjoyed the moments of wondering and seeing what Michael and his father William's relationship had become as they got older, not knowing if William truly hates Mike or just wants nothing to do with him since he's so busy with his experiments, only then to need him in his moments of death, facing the angry souls of the children he had murdered, while Mike would learn and discover his father's work and what he's been up to for years, being tricked into helping Circus Baby and the animatronics, getting scooped while remaining alive even after rotting into purple flesh. The detail of the remnant made sense to me. Mike was still active but full of rage against what his father had done. Soon he would look for William, which was a moving moment for me. Mike wanted to help, but he was fooled and manipulated and doesn't have anything left now of what he's become. But he decides to end it all and finally burn it all. Another problem I can understand with MatPat was the year everything was set in. So many things were going on at the same time. When would these moments occur if our paychecks allow us the year, or at least us trying to figure out the year? Even I couldn't debunk this question, but I can at least see the events happening in a certain way in a story sense than trying to follow it chronologically and looking out for only the years until we get to 2045 or something, I don't know. So I can work with this timeline provided for us. I was impacted by how Michael truly felt once MatPat had an idea about the events of Sister Location. This whole story was about what one man had done to affect the people around him and what it had done to his own family and then to himself. Typically, the story should have ended there, but we were treated to brand new characters and a brand new edition of the Fazbear franchise. This is where the style of FNAF would also change to fit this new narrative. As for the new theory, MatPat was correct, as this one would be controversial. We've been trying to understand this whole story of FNAF Security Breach for a while now, so to my surprise was how MatPat used Mrs. Afton as the next person to put everything back together. I wasn't expecting this outcome at all, considering how it made me feel uncomfortable that this woman would still want the same man who murdered children back into her life. For me, I'd leave him to know how crazy he was. However, I like this theory. Okay, hear me out. I enjoyed the idea, but I can't accept this into the final timeline. I honestly see how this was a possible case for MatPat and how it would be interesting to see how Mrs. Afton would be the one pulling the strings, how this would all be her doing to set things right, and how she wants her family back as well. She'd probably be a mastermind herself, which was maybe what William saw in her to be his wife, and vice versa. The only matter that really grinds my gears was this entire convoluted mess. Sure, after the events of FNAF 6, we expected a power vacuum at the helm, but what would they want to do with Fazbear Entertainment? The horrific history it fostered slandered the business, so how would they change it? Mrs. Afton would have the legal rights to the remaining business, having access to all of William's work and just being bright as William, if not smarter. She would download William's consciousness from circuit boards to have herself glitch trap and try to return him as his former self. Step in FNAF Help Wanted, where we have a rogue indie developer to make these games that conceal the truth about Fazbear Entertainment. Throughout FNAF AR, Mrs. Afton would have the company create many iterations of the Fazbear characters, like it was a battle pass for skins or something. When we get to FNAF Security Breach, Mrs. Afton would want to rebuild Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but this time going big or going home. The Pizzaplex is built conveniently over the last location that happened in the previous entry. She would then rebuild her son Gregory and want her children Elizabeth and Mike to return. So she accomplishes these feats, but miscalculates another spirit that would return and ensure they stop this from all happening. Charlie Emily, Henry's daughter, who previously possessed the puppet, would return as our Nightmare Marione, explaining the blobs, subtle details, or the plushy Easter eggs hidden throughout Security Breach. This leaves us with Gregory disobeying his creator, and Glamrock Freddy helping him in the game. Vanessa seems the one to have to locate him, but I still can't understand the Vanny situation other than the detail in the guidebook saying she is an agent of Afton. So you beat the game after waking William and the blob takes him, and that's it. And I'm not sure what else to expect next.
Give me in! Freddy!
Now, this was my biggest concern over all of this lore. I already said I was okay with how it ended with Ultimate Custom Night. So I know the series jumping the shark was one thing, but hearing MatPat's theory might as well jump over an entire mall or football field over how ridiculous this is. Don't get me wrong, I like his theory. It was one I enjoyed since it narratively sounded intriguing. In fact, it feels more like an excellent fan story with a cohesive lore that combines some pieces with the characters, their motivations, and the part they play. However, it doesn't feel like this was one I can canonically accept since Scott Cawthon has already changed so much of the lore, and I'm not sure if this was the definitive direction he was aiming for. Although the question of what happened to the mother of the Afton family leaves a lot of theories on the table, but why now? The timing and the vague storyline just don't sit well with me. We don't hear much about her in this series, and she's made a reference in Security Breach at the Afton dinner table. So what made her want to become Thanos and do it all herself? I just don't like how it's brought up in this way. In my opinion, I could see the plan of William trying to do it and somehow moving heaven and earth, or in this case, hell and earth, so he can reunite with his family. Even though I would hate him returning again, it makes sense for his character. Mrs. Afton showing this side of her is left to be seen unless you want to include the Immortal and Restless show and give us a glimpse of her, or Bellora's song and her appearance in Sister Location. Yet it doesn't feel like solid evidence to support this theory around her, and we don't get much more. MatPat didn't make a story that felt cohesive, and I can also agree that All Was Explained doesn't give us all the answers, and we have yet to see what Scott will show us and what he's gonna do. I could also be wrong here, and accept that this could be close to solving this new lore. The fact is, it's gotten crazy other than Haunted Animatronics, which I believe made a simple horror game into this over-the-top story that's been going on for too long. I'm not saying fans should hate this series, or I want to disprove all the fantastic work everyone has done to solve the lore. I just don't want people to overwork themselves to have an endless road that could have an unsatisfying build-up to an oversaturated game and timeline that doesn't have the drive that we once felt getting so close to solving the story. As fans who grew up with this series, we were introduced to so many iterations of FNAF games that evolved FNAF's core gameplay. So to see that lose its momentum in Security Breach and with a story that left more questions than answers felt like a massive step back to what made FNAF a great series. If everyone wants to continue to follow this new era, then that's okay. I just don't want the work that left a journey that the community laid out to become forgotten, misunderstood, or retconned to appeal to this new story. I don't want FNAF to feel like this bland franchise made for cash grabs, then reminding people of the genuine passion that was put behind it. How it inspired and gave people a new path of creating their own games, making their own stories, and inspiring the next generation. I mean, Security Breach has this passion under this mixed lore, but I guess it didn't work out, especially under a AAA company that gave them this deadline, which doesn't give the team enough time to deliver the next best game. On another note, I'm wondering what the movie will be like. We'll have to see if MatPat will take a break from FNAF. Probably not. Although I hope he appears in the movie, maybe with Markiplier or Dawko. As for you guys, let me know what you all think about the timeline and the future of FNAF. And consider subscribing if you want to see more videos that I upload. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Stay safe and have a great day.